Today's lessons is going to review some important concepts from Unit 6 in relation to algebraic equations and expressions. The first topic in this assignment is exponents. Exponents are a way for us to show repeated multiplication. This form that we see right here is showing these and their expanded form. Expanded form means I am showing all the multiplication steps. With an exponent, I can condense these terms. And to do that, I'm going to count how many of each I have. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we will use 3 as the base because that's the number being multiplied. And there are 5 of them, so this is 3 to the 5th power. Then we're adding, and pay attention to the sign. Okay, obviously these are different numbers, but also once you have that addition sign, okay, adding is obviously different from multiplication. The last piece here, I have 2 5s, so this would be 5 to the 2nd power. If I'm asking you to rewrite using exponents, you don't need to evaluate, you're just condensing them to their exponential form. In this next example, I'm going to show you what it is to evaluate an exponent. Okay, the most common mistake I see on problems like this is we just take the base 4 and multiply it by the exponent 3. You're going to see when I evaluate it, 4 to the 3rd power does not equal 12. When you're evaluating exponents, make sure you're showing out your multiplication. You are allowed to use a calculator for this multiplication step, but please show the work as you go. Okay, each time you multiply, I'm going to bracket this off. So this would be 4 times 4, which is 16. And then I still have one more times 4 to do. So 16 times 4 here is 64. Again, you can use a calculator to come up with this as long as you're showing the steps. When you're evaluating an exponent, that's just calculating what it is equal to. Section 2 in this assignment is about writing equations or expressions from given information in real-world situations. Use the keywords on the slide to help you determine what the correct operation should be. In this first one, we have Veronica has $8 less dollars than her friend. Okay, less is my keyword, and that means to subtract. Okay, when we're writing this, when we don't know how much someone has or a value, like we don't know how much her friend has, I'm going to use an exponent. Veronica, I'm going to use a V for. Her friend, I'm going to use an F. So now I've broken this down. I've come up with variables and I know my operation. Be careful when there's subtraction or division because the order in which you write those variables will be important. Okay, my equation here is going to represent how much Veronica has. So I'm going to write that as V equals. If she has $8 less than her friend, 8 less means I'm taking away 8. And again, I'm taking away 8 from F. Okay, you can choose any variables you want. It's helpful to choose a variable related to the topic, and you want to make sure that your variables are 2 different ones. Let's look at one more. Nick has double the money of Ben. So again, we don't know how much money Nick has. We don't know how much money Ben has, so I'll use the variable N and B. And then the keyword in this one is double, which means 2 times. Okay, so again, when I go to set this up, the equation is going to be for how much Nick has. So N equals. Again, this is multiplication, so we don't have to be as careful with the order. So I can just write it as I read it. Double means 2 times. Be there. When we write the equation or expression, we can't solve it because we have more than one unknown variable. The last section of today's assignment is going to be on how we would solve equations. In these examples, we have one variable, so we're able to solve them using the inverse operation. In the first one, we have 42 equals 2m. We have to remember that 2 is a coefficient of m, so this is really saying 2 times m. To solve this equation, I want to get m by itself, so I need to get rid of the times 2. To eliminate something, we're going to use the opposite operation. So here, the opposite of multiplication is division, and we'll divide on both sides. This allows these two to cancel out, which will leave m by itself. And when we divide 42 by 2, we get 21. Second example, I have h minus 25 equals 87. The inverse of subtraction is to do addition. Again, we're using the inverse operation here to show that these two will cancel out, and that isolates the variable. So now this will read h equals. We want to make sure that we do the same thing on each side, so I'm going to have to add 25 on this side as well, which will get me 112. Okay, I would suggest double checking your answers when you're solving, and you can do that by putting this value back into the original problem. So if I think h equals 112, and I plug this in, 112 minus 25 should equal 87. And when I do that subtraction step, I do get 87 equals 87. So I know I've come up with the right solution for my variable h. This assignment is going to help you review in preparation for the Unit 6 exam, which should be coming up next week.